Welcome to This Week at the NCPA app and get those tickets. And of course, for all information, there's ncpamumbai.com. Kaushiki Chakrabarti shall be performing and Kaushiki joins me. Hi, how are you? So nice to speak to you.
Thank you so much, Rishikesh. I'm very glad to be here on this show. And I'm doing well. Thank you.
I want you to start talking about these six wonderful doyens of Indian music that you will pay tribute to. If you could just speak a couple of lines on all six of them, it'll be really wonderful.
Yeah, so this is actually it's journey of music and it's also a journey of time because we're starting from Gohar, which is like, the first, I think time wise, she will be the first one to mention here. Uh, I think today's generation is not so much aware of the name and her contribution and her presence in the field of music and what she has done for music, for Indian music's presence in the international diaspora is something that I don't think we have been able to speak for enough. So this is the first Indian musician who was recorded by the gramophone and, at that time, she was the first one to agree to something like this because there was this great fear about music being recorded. It was not, it's difficult for us to understand how the fear, is relevant because our music is being recorded every day, every minute. But recording music would mean that, somebody is taking out the entire vibe of her is just so dear and so close to our hearts, and yet as a student of music it's something that one can never attain, one can never achieve. When she sings, it just it just molds your heart, and you just blend and melt into her voice and music. But when you try to sing, it's so difficult to follow her expression. It's so difficult to sing like her. It's so difficult to follow that as a style because it's so nuanced, it's so intricate, it's so brave, it's so it's so romantic, sensuous at the same time. The grace and the respect of it, the dignity of it is something that's completely unattainable as a musician, I would definitely think. And then we have uh, Noor Jahanji, and Noor Jahanji, it is from to tradition, when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to so many very very basic but very profound elements of life. I think boundaries and political lines, they are still very very insignificant. So when we think and when we celebrate musical ideas, musical expressions, and the doyens and legends of music, I think Noor Jahanji was very, very relevant for me, for her semi-classical music, for her folk renditions, for bringing folk into the semi-classical moment with her singing. Her voice resonates in my heart all the time. And Kishori Amankarji, who has been an example for all of us who have seen her life, seen her journey, seen her performances, and have studied a little bit about the person she was, the legacies that she carried, and also the individuality that she brought uh, in the musical space, in the classical musical space. So, of course, there are many, many more that we can, mention and celebrate and, kind of, I think me as a singer and me as a woman, I owe a lot to all of them. But I am very, very privileged and honored to be able to.
They say in a Bengali household, like you grow up with Tagore and with Ray, in every South Indian household around the world, you always wake up to MS Subbulakshmi Suprabhadam.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm married to a South Indian, and
So
I'm
you
very
know
much
all about
aware
it.
of the fact that Suprabhatam is one of. It's like it's one tradition, it's one culture, it's one very personal thing, and you every morning is incomplete without Suprabhatam, and I personally know how you know how uh, how part of life, how intertwined it is with your everyday life.
True. And of course, Trilok Gurtuji is a friend, and
Yes.
Trilokji has told me such wonderful stories about the great Shobha Gurtu and him growing up and things like that. And of course, Noorjan Begum Akhtar, we were not even born.
Now that my child is a teenager, I'm still continuing to sing for NCPA as a child first, then as a soloist, then I got married, then I became a mother. So my entire journey of life and music is kind of I grew together with NCPA, and I've performed at the small experimental theatre, and then of course the Tata Theatre and Jamshid Baba, of course. Every time I've performed something, a very special concept, as it is very unique with NCPA that they always want to come up with a very innovative idea, a very refreshing thought. So many a times I've done many concerts with them, and whenever, thanks to Dr. Rao, she's been like a constant rock solid support. She's like family. It doesn't feel like she's one from NCP. It feels like whenever there's something special, I would like to share it with Dr. Rao, and she's been like a guardian figure. And whenever there has been a thought in my mind that I wanted to kind of curate and create something around, she has always been the greatest support. She's always had so much faith, which is for a creative artist, it's very important, because when we think of ideas, when we curate ideas, we are only passion driven. We only want to do this, but there are so many practical side that has to be taken care of for something so special to kind of, matlab, I'm so passionate about this. So they've always had faith in my madness, which is the biggest blessing and biggest strength for me, I think.
Well, I look forward to catching you on stage at the City NCPA Adi Anand Festival of Indian Music, Kaushiki. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for giving us this
Thank you so much.
great insights into these wonderful singers, remembering the divas. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to this. Thanks.
Welcome to This Week at the NCPA, where we tell you what's hot and happening on stage as well as off it in the fringes of the National Centre of the Performing Arts. Today I have with me Snigdha Hasan. She's editor of OnStage, the arts magazine of the NCPA Mumbai. She's had an extensive career in journalism and editorial. She's worked with publications like The Outlook, Reader's Digest, Midday, and has written extensively on culture and subjects of human interest. Hi, great to talk to you. How are you?
Hi, Rishi. I'm very well. Thank you. Lovely being here. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Let's start with the history of publications at the NCPA. I'm given to understand that much before the OnStage, there was an NCPA quarterly journal, and that really was the precursor to what we see now as OnStage in the.
This was in keeping with its ethos of preserving, promoting, and propagating the arts. And so, merely 3 years after it was founded in 1969, the NCPA's founding father, Dr. Jamshed Bhaba, he brought out the first issue of the NCPA Quarterly Journal. And it was known for its authoritative articles. It was helmed by the erudite scholar and champion of the arts, Dr. Kumud Mehta, and it remained in print until her demise in 1988. And then, after almost 2 decades, the Onstage magazine was launched in 2007 on the initiative of the present chairman of the NCPA, Mr. Khushu N. Santok, who is a true believer of the written and the printed word. And so this is how the NCPA came into being in 2007. And it first started as a program guide, telling members about all that was coming up at the NCPA. It eventually metamorphosed into a program guide along with features. It would carry long form features on a particular aspect of an event that was coming up at the NCPA, be it in music, dance, theater, the visual arts. And what we are trying to do now with the magazine is that we're trying to, it's all of this and a little bit more. So we're trying to make it a well-rounded arts magazine that talks about not only what's coming up at the NCPA, but it looks at the world of the performing and visual arts at large. So, for example, our December issue, which has just come out, you'll see something called a festive bulletin, and it covers all the music festivals that are happening or will happen in India in the coming months. So you have Hornbill in Nagaland, and then you have the magnetic
far as theatre and literature is concerned, but often for my radio show, which is this week at the NCPA, also for the benefit of my listeners, because I have to be the common man and ask the right questions. When I'm stumped in the Western classical arena and I need some kind of brushing up, reading, research in the Indian classical music arena, my go-to has become just pick up a copy of the OnStage, whether a physical copy or an online copy. And really, it's added so much, not just for my prep on the show, but also to my overall awareness. I mean, there's much more that I know about the Western classical art form, as well as Indian classical and Indian dance, that I knew a few months ago before this program started, and I became an avid reader of the OnStage. So I speak on behalf of a lot of people like me. So thank you very much there.
Thank you for the kind words, Rishi. And I'm glad that what we are trying to do is reaching the reader. Ultimately, that's the whole point of this exercise, really.
Lovely. Also, let's talk about the evolution of the editorial content a little.
So we have introduced quite a few sections. For example, we have a dedicated section called Kaleidoscope, which talks about international developments in the world of culture. We try and keep, our fingers on the pulse of what's happening around the world. Whether it's an artistic director of a important ballet company who is, stepped down or has acquired a new role, or whether it's the head of an opera company, who's been trying to do something new here, or even, for example, recently a gallery in Calcutta won the Frieze Prize in Germany, and I have a wonderful team who's constantly tapping these developments, and they said, well, we should include this, and I said absolutely. So these are the kind of things we try and do with the magazine. Then there's something called the Performing Arts Dispatch, for which we focus on one performing arts center, from different countries of the world every alternate month. So just like how you have an NCPA here in Mumbai, you may have a Menak Theatre in the UK, or the more well-known Sydney Opera House, and we try and speak to people over there, try and get a sense of how they run a performing arts center in their country, the challenges, the fun of doing it. So it's that. Then we have something called the Performing Arts Column, wherein we invite people from diverse theaters, experts from diverse fields, to contribute a column to the magazines. This month you have a column by Anant Mahadevan. Previously we've had contributors like Amit Chaudhary, Mahesh Tatnani, Royce Nabel, Shivendra Singh Dungarpur. These are some of the sections. Then we have book excerpts. So any book that has, a book that has recently been published from the world of the arts, again, performing or visual arts, we read them, we extract, portions that we feel might be of interest to our readers, and we present those.
Now, this is for all those non-media people and people who are not aware of what goes on behind the scenes as far as journalism and editorial is concerned. I often get this saying, oh, so, you prepare for stuff and then when it's ready, whenever it's ready, you release it on the radio. That's not the way it works. There are very strict deadlines. We have deadlines to meet. We have issues to close. We have programs.
Great connoisseur of the arts himself, and I'm constantly getting inputs from him, constantly getting direction from him. He's very well connected in the world of the arts. He goes and speaks at many fora of especially when it comes to music, and so he puts us in touch with experts in those fields, and we're constantly looking at ways of collaborating with those experts, whether we're inviting them to the to write for the magazine, or giving us inputs when we are stitching together an article on a particular piece or a particular idea. And how it starts is that we work about 45 to 60 days in advance. It's a monthly publication. So we draw up our editorial plan somewhere between 60 and 45 days of the next month. And that's also because, this magazine caters to our members, and our members are, these are people and friends of the SOI, and these are people who are committed to the cause of the NCPA. They've pledged their commitment through their membership, and so we need to keep them informed of what's coming up at the NCPA before it's made known to the public at large, and because there are specific booking windows, so we have to work much in advance. We of course have a dedicated person. She is really the oldest employee of the NCPA, Mrs. Hilda Darukhanawala. So she puts together the program guide and highlight section of the magazine, which inform people of all that's coming up, not only in the current month, but also in the coming months. And then there are the long form features for which I'm constantly in discussions with the heads of genres here at the NCPA, who, and we work out a specific angle that we want to focus on, even if it's related to an event coming up at the NCPA. For example, in the world of, currently we have the International Jazz Festival going on. So, when we are speaking to artists who are coming and performing here, what do we want to talk to them about? What is it? Are we talking about Latin influences in their jazz? Are we talking about the kind of instruments they use, and if they're heirloom instruments? So these are all angles that we are constantly chiseling at, so that we present something that's worthy of reading to the reader. So this is, and then there are invitees, guest columnists. Mr. Anil Dharkar used to do a monthly column, until his very, very unfortunate demise. And I remember you hosted a beautiful online tribute. It was during the time of the pandemic. And, we, of course, now the Lit Fest has, they of course commemorate him through the memorial lecture. But at that point, an online tribute was what was possible, and I still remember the way you'd conducted it. So these are the kind of people we've had the good fortune of associating with through the magazine, and then of course there's a hard stop on the 15th of every sets of answers to that question, because I'll come to the core editorial team in a bit, but I'll also talk about people who generally guide the overall content of the magazine, even if they're not directly involved with the nitty-gritty of it. So it's it starts with Mr. Santuk, of course, then the heads of genres at the NCPA, Dr. Suvarnalata Rao, Mr. Mukesh Parpiani, Mrs. Farah Nazirani, Mrs. Shopnukalpa Das Gupta, Mrs. Zergsis Unwala, Mr. Bruce Guthrie. So these are the 6 pillars who are like my sounding boards, who are constantly telling me, and we're discussing things, ideas, fleshing them out. So there's that. Then of course, the magazine, and of course we'll come to that in a bit, but I must mention that the magazine needs to reach more people. It's an arts magazine. It's not only limited to the NCPA. We're trying to make the content more relevant to people whoever loves music, dance, theatre, photography, literature, fine arts. So there's a very dedicated team that is constantly helping us widen the reach of the magazine, and that team is helmed by Mr. Albert Almeida. We have my wonderful colleagues, Mrs. Diya Ramchandran, Radhika Zaveri, Priyanka Malik. They're all constantly helping us widen the reach of the magazine. And coming to the core editorial team, we have a great publishing collaborator in Man's World, helmed by Radhakrishnan Nair, of course, very well, and contributing editor, Ms. Vipasha Lokik Pai. So these are people, again, constantly, working on the magazine. And then here at the NCPA, we have, of course, I mentioned Hilda Darukhanawala, and a very young and bright writer, Aishwarya Bodke. So, and then we have a sort of a pool of freelance writers who are all invested in the world of the arts, and that's how this is the core team of people that are constantly working on this labor of love, really. And coming to the readers, like I mentioned, members of the NCPA, friends of the SOI, and we're always grateful to them for pledging their commitment to the cause of the NCPA, because that's what membership is about. This, that's that's a growing number of people always. And then we have journalists, art critics, government officials, people in the Ministry of Culture, schools that are committed to the arts. So the schools that have a very strong curriculum on the arts, the magazine reaches those schools, other performing arts centers around India and the world, and libraries. We're also trying to, again, widen the reach of the magazine through reaching to libraries in other countries of the world as well. So these are all people who make up our readers.
That's wonderful. And a great way to close down this chat with you would be to give our listeners, our viewers, some great news. The OnStage magazine is now available to a wider readership through subscription and sale at the NCPA, other cultural venues, and also if you want an exclusive subscription, you can reach out. I tell you this, you see the physical copy, there is no compromise on quality at all. The paper is so beautifully high gloss. All the photographs look note perfect. So if you're an old school lover of the physical copy, this is as good as any printing paper that you would get. There's no compromise on quality at all. And if you're, part of the millennials and Gen Z, or even somebody who's older but who's now diverted their attention to stuff online all the time, then the online copy is there for you too. So anybody who wants a subscription, what can they do, Snigdha?
So the copy is available, of course, on subscription at the NCPA itself. So if you're here to watch a performance, you can just walk across to the box office. We have counters usually set up for the OnStage and membership as events unfold. So just walk up to one of our counters, and our volunteers will take you through all the the benefits and everything that comes with a subscription. So we have annual subscription, we have a half-yearly subscription of the print edition, and then with that come a few gifts, of course, and then of course the digital edition comes with your print edition subscription. But we have realized, like you said, that holding the printed version of a magazine, the print copy, there's something very tangible, a very tangible joy to it. And even those who love reading online, it comes as a nice breather that you're not constantly scrolling or you're pinching in and pinching out of your screen. You have something right in front of you. You can flip pages and it's right there. So the subscription packages are available right at our venue at the NCPA. You can also go to ncpamumbai.com and you'll find more details over there. And of course, at the NCPA, our box office is constantly there too. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
94.3 Radio 1.